Warm welcome to this evening's program. Friends, we have been doing this program on a weekly basis in Pragna Bharati. So again, warm welcome to this evening's program. I will do a brief introduction of our organization and hand this over to Shri LV Subramanyam Garu, IAS retired former Chief Secretary of Andhra Pradesh, and he's also our governing council member. He would take it from there after I have done my introduction of our organization. Friends, to some of you who are new to this place, Pragna Bharati has been an organization which has been working among intellectuals for the past almost 3 decades. We are a nationalistic thinkers forum. We have been conducting conferences, seminars, workshops, and several other programs to bring in nationalistic viewpoint on every aspect that affects our polity and our nation. We have been awarding people who have significantly contributed for the cause of our nation in what we call as Pragna Puraskar. The last recipient was Dr. Satish Reddy ji, who is an advisor to the government of India. He is also a senior scientist in missile technology and navigation technology. We have been publishing a book, a monthly magazine by name Bharati Pragna. Recently, due to coronavirus related pandemic, we have kind of slowed it down, but we intend to restart it all over again. Friends, this organization was started by Sri Ram Madhav ji. He was the first organizing secretary. Along with him, Sri B.S. Sharma ji was a pharmaceutical professional who is amongst us today. And Dr. Tripura Hanuman Chowdhury, he is our chairman. He has been the inspiration behind most of us in the younger generation. He is 90 plus years, but then he's been doing wonderful service in this wonderful work in the service of the nation. Then there are 2 more gentlemen who are no more with us, Vakati Panduranga Rao Garu and Sri Harihara Sharma Garu. These are the 5 people who are initially the members of Pragna Bharati when it was founded. Then Vijay Bharati ji, who is also on this program, she's a vice president of our state team. She's also been there almost from the inception. And then Nirmala Sitharaman ji was one of the earliest general secretaries, who is now, of course, the finance minister of Bharat. So we have had very many illustrious people coming and speaking on our podium, right from Advani ji to Vajpayee ji, Conrad Elst, David Frawley. So many people have spoken from our podium. A 30-year journey. So we, unfortunately, because of this corona pandemic, we could not physically meet. Last year, during the first wave, we had done almost 120, 130 programs in English. And our Karimnagar unit had done equal number, if not more, in Telugu. In fact, they have been one of the more active units of Pragna Bharati Telangana. We have around more than 20 units across the state of Telangana. So friends, please do follow our Twitter handle, Facebook, Instagram, and all our social media assets. And if you intend to be part of it, if you intend to contribute, or if you want to be part of our movement, please contact us, and then please let us know in what capacity you would want to join us. Friends, I take great pleasure in introducing today's speakers and then the topic today. Shri LV Subramanyam Garu, as you all know, he retired as a senior IAS officer in service of the government of Andhra Pradesh. He was former Chief Secretary of Andhra Pradesh as well. And he was with the Tirupati Devasthanam also. Of course, he is now advising us and is guiding us as the governing council member. Then we have Shri Krishna Reddy Garu, is an IPS officer. He would be today he would be kind of taking us through this whole program, because he has hands-on experience with regard to the internal security problems that our nation is facing. Then, of course, we are waiting for Shri Muralidhar Garu, is a senior BJP leader. He would be joining us anytime soon, and then he would be the chief speaker today. Friends, while we have challenges around the country with regard to China, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and whatnot, we have serious problems internally as well, be it the Naxal problem or be it the fundamentalist problem of jihadi tanzeems or the church motivated separatist movements of the Northeast. So we thought we will take time to really discuss these things and what was the response from our nation, what more can be done and what more should be done, and what is our responsibilities. We have senior IAS, IPS officers and politicians with us today. So their wisdom, their experience is something which will help us understand this subject and factor our responses to it. With this, I now hand this over to Sri LV Subramanyam Garu to take this forward.
Thank you, Giridhar, and pleasant evening to everyone here. It gives me great pleasure to say a few words, more as a kind of appetizer for the evening session. It's a very, very serious kind of a discussion today we have, and quite meaningfully, the title has been put as Bharat's internal security. The word Bharat itself has its own connotations, and usage of that word would take us into some fundamental understanding of the problems which we are facing today. Of course, the immediate provocation for all of us is the aspect about the sedition law, the 124A of IPC, which has come up for mention. And we have seen how the highest court in our country, the apex court, has some views about it, and it made them known to all of us. It's a critical juncture in the march of development that this country is facing. In our 70 odd years of independence, our development strategy has been changing from government to government. I say this because we initially started off as a command economy model where we thought the entire country's development song has to be composed by the Planning Commission, and how they would look at the nation's requirements in terms of development of infrastructure, in terms of human resources development, in terms of understanding the external threats, in terms of assessing the internal problems for peace. Gradually, the dialogue has got widened, and a country which began to look at agitation as a means to attain freedom, and it has continued to have this agitational approach. I am reminded of the book written by Dr. Myron Weiner in Politics of Scarcity. He goes on to mention how every decision taken by union government in various matters has been the result of an agitation. It has never been, up to a point of time, recognizing the needs at the field level or at the state level. So agitation has been our means, and we learned that hartals, bands, all this would help us in expediting getting political favors or political decisions from elected governments. This has gone in a very repetitive manner across the states in the country. I don't have to go too much into that. Time has come for us to look at two most popular aphorisms which are quoted very often in legal jurisprudence. The first one is that let 99 offenders escape, but not even one innocent should be punished. This is an aphorism which has been quite often repeated. Similarly, it is said, till someone is proved guilty, we must hold him innocent. Now, these two aphorisms are at the root of our discussions when we talk about the sedition law. But sedition law apart, we have various problems which are emerging in this country where we have a large segment of the population, the mean age is 28 years. And it is said that till about 2050, this democratic dividend is going to give great advantage to this country. We are talking about the next 30 years at least. In this 30 years, how this country would benefit in augmenting the youth energy to its developmental program and the developmental paradigm so that this country progresses. But what we see today is for every agitation, it is the youth who are coming into the forefront. Every political party has a youth wing. The youth wing, sometimes the age group goes up to the age of 45. So you have youth leaders who are sometimes on the wrong side of 40s, but who continue to be the youth leaders. So this youth energy is sometimes meandering its way into unlawful activities. Coupled with their technical prowess, this generation of youth who are very familiar with technology, they're able to cause great havoc in this country. You have several challenges which are adding up to complicating this matter of internal security. As I've said, if you look back at the 124A of IPC, today you have a very, very piquant kind of a situation. All of us know that the Ministry of Home Affairs had constituted a consultative committee to go into this, to make recommendations. But when the Law Commission in 2018 had recommended about 124A and how it is time for us to push it into the trash can, the union government held a conference with all the states. And you'll be quite surprised to understand that most of the states, or all the states, have desired to have the law as it is and not to have any change. And all of us know that law and order is the responsibility of the state government. So how do we deal with the situation where the state government's desire to have the 124A intact, and you have a widespread opinion today articulated in different fora by different people that it is time for us to look at sedition law in a different manner. As rightly said, this was the law which has held Gangadhar Tilak, Bal Gangadhar Tilak ji, Mahatma Gandhi ji, as well as a host of such national leaders who are all fighting for the freedom of the country. But the same law is today being applied in different ways, in different forums, different governments, to arrest public opinion, to arrest any dissent voice coming up. As I said, this 5-member panel has still a task laid out before it. It is going to perhaps give its report in the next couple of months or so. And they have always said that their opinion was that 124A should be invoked only in cases where the intention behind any act is to disrupt public order or to overthrow a government with violence and illegal means. This is something which they have kept as a kind of a reference to overhaul of this section. They have also said that merely mentioning a thought that is not in consonance with the policy of government of the day, a person should not be charged under the section. So the consultation paper of this committee has very nicely articulated these views, how to deal with the dissent. I remember when I was doing my 10th class, we had an English lesson, a prose, which talked about the freedom. In that, there's an interesting dialogue between a person two people who are taking a morning walk. The person who was going ahead has a walking stick in his hand, and he's twirling his walking stick and walking, and somebody is coming behind. So the person who comes behind he articulates very beautifully and tells him that your freedom to walk is curtailed by the place where my nose begins. So you can swing your bat, you can swing your stick, but if it were to come and hit my nose, then I would like to call it a stop and say that my freedom is violated. So one person's freedom cannot violate another person's freedom. My freedom to live peacefully, in all fairness, to have a healthy life, cannot be curtailed by somebody else's freedom to articulate for an agitation, to articulate for commotion, to articulate for a movement which disturbs this peace. So it's very interesting to see where exactly should we draw a line to freedom and where should we say that somebody's freedom has exceeded a particular framework. As Giridhar has already pointed out, the internal security challenges are not just coming out of internal problems, because what is happening within the country, the actors are all sometimes guided, provoked, blessed, nurtured, encouraged, provoked by forces which are operating outside. We know about the left-wing extremism. We know about the religious fundamentalism, about how these two have been causing havoc to this country. They're actually coming out of conspiracies across the borders. They are getting arms, they're getting ammunition. And as a strategy over a period of time, all the violent agitations have started wearing a cosmetic look to themselves, to look attractive, to look like clean models operating in Bollywood cinema. So these soft boys, soft toys, which are being brought in, they are the peacemakers in the society. They are the people who are building an argument for individual freedom, civil liberties, etc., etc. So you have a very, very difficult task on hand. And lastly, I would like to just mention, in this complex kind of a environment where internal security is getting perpetually harmed, you have the helpless police force which has to deal with this complex kind of a organism called the internal security, because the police force are divided in their attention. They are called in for menial jobs to major crisis, to major investigation, to minor thefts. Their attention is divided and their training methods are not able to cope with the current development of technology. So we have a very interesting debate on hand, discussion on hand, and who else can moderate this and guide this discussion except my elder brother, P.V. Krishna Reddy, who has had a distinguished career in police force. I recall when the country wanted to take care of the safety and security in all the airports across the country, he was one of the first ones to spread out his thinking and planning process. And when he was heading the CISF, he was the one who provided extraordinary protection to all the airports, that Indian nation had not fallen prey to these international machinations which are operating across the globe. So he has got extraordinary handle on the subject, and we are very, very happy to have him here. I have shown him, I have given the menu card and said that this is a very interesting kind of affair, and he is there to help us to navigate, to understand the implications of each of these challenges and help us to come to some understanding at the end of the day to these challenges, and to enable us to live our life as enlightened citizens of this country. I thank you all for giving me these opportunities to say a few words, and I hand over to my elder brother, Sri P.V. Krishna Reddy. Namaste.
Tamuda Dhanyavadalu. Hari Om, everybody. Namaste. I'm really grateful to our brother Subbu to bring out what challenges the nation. He had started off with the concept of agitations has become a way of life to sort out their personal ends to be met either by the groups or individuals of the country. I was reminded of American philosopher David Thoreau, who has, in the 18th century, popularized the concept of civil disobedience movement, and which has been borrowed subsequently by Martin Luther and our father of the nation, Gandhi, who has been able to achieve freedom from the Britishers by applying this concept of civil disobedience movement. I just wanted to mention, because it's agitation. Now, agitation for freedom, agitation to have a peaceful progress of a nation without any violence is the most welcome. That's what we call dissent in any democracy. But when you have a law enforcement machinery, which my younger brother has brought it out, which is is capable of, we still have an order in the society. It's not become Paris like in America, Southern America or in Africa. We're still able to sit together across and talk it out. Our women are able to go out, children are able to go out in most parts of the country. So therefore, I wouldn't really tick off the law enforcement machinery where we have spent about 80 years plus across the nation, starting from one of the toughest states in the country, Tripura, where we fought insurgency from day one as we were dumped into the state as a probationer, where we have scores of people being killed, 17 killed, 23 killed, companies of CRPF and BSF being wiped out, and Tripura State Rifles. So violence had become a way of life when you were being groomed as a young officer to fight insurgency in the northeastern state initially. So which has become a very, very handy later to neutralize, put in a counter-terror efforts in Kashmir and counter-insurgency, counter-Naxalite operations across 13 states which have been affected across the nation, later in CRPF at the later point of the career. So what I would like to briefly touch upon is the domestic dynamics of internal security. It really reflects on socio-political milieu of the nation. Now, threats broadly, if you look at it, they emanate from terrorism, insurgency, narco-terrorism, arms proliferation, and information warfare, which our brother has brought about this youth, which is trying to, when it gets into the vested hands. Now, Britishers, when they had ruled, they had used communal and religious polarizations when they were leaving the country to put down the initial freedom movement, and later when they left the country, they had caused a terrific, the cracks in the fabric of the Indian continent. So subsequently developments across the country, when you look around, whether a Babri Masjid demolition or a Mandal Commission or communal strives or trans-border migrations, what we have noticed in the Northeast, especially from East Pakistan, unforeseen economic developments, unfulfilled aspirations of the people, and this illegal migration, which to the tune of 15 to 18 million Bangladeshis into Assam and Tripura, and 3 to 5 million people into Bihar, West Bengal, and Delhi. They have had a greater bearing in insurgency fuel in the northeastern part of the country, which were always played. I will bring out this, foreign powers, international players, whether it is reference to the Pakistani Inter-Services Intelligence Wing, ISI, what we call, and Bangladesh, what they call Directorate General of Foreign Intelligence, DGFI, and combined with sanctuaries in Myanmar, sanctuaries in Yunnan province of China. When you have external, hostile neighbors, they've been able to form in trouble. One side from Pakistan into Kashmir, the other side in the northeast, and ISI has been able to spread their wings across the gullible, I would not call Islamic terrorism the word phrase, gullible, poor and weak Muslim population. By and large, 99% of the Muslims across the country, they're law-abiding, they are Indian citizens, absolutely without any hassle. Very, very smallest percentage which has been targeted by the foreign intelligence agencies are the concept of penetration into the mainland, interland, apart from Kashmir in the northeast, and trying to get them across. Hyderabad we've seen, or we have seen the violent terrorist act have been perpetrated by Pakistani SI, whether 93 bombings in Mumbai or subsequent in Hyderabad and various places. High Court in Delhi when I was there, holding as additional to the CRPF. Number of places they've been able to perpetrate violence across the country because there is a target population which can be targeted by spreading the concept of pan-Islamism. Now, there is what do you call, with information technology, which has been pointed out by my brother, is underworld has expanded the criminal activities, which is being supported by the foreign national governments and their intelligence agencies, and also non-state actors. The moment we try to bring down evidence and mount evidence and put international pressure on any particular country, they will say, we will all cooperate, we have no role at all. It's a non-state actors who have been, like famous one is that 2008, when we had 9/11, 26/11, when we had the November that incident. So they took a plea that it's only non-state actors and we have no control on non-state actors by the Pakistani government. Now, the other thing which has been fomenting trouble inside, which ruptures our internal security apparatus is China, which we have been seeing last year. Though after 1962 war, there has been a great amount of understanding, and there have never been any shots fired between two nations, and there between both the armies. There have been a peaceful, some sort of coexistence was going on, which got impaired in last year, May onwards, when they were trying to establish their own infrastructure across. There is something called broadly accepted LAC, line of actual control. So there has been clear-cut demarcation in those Himalayan ranges where we have lakes and mountains and icy snowy peaks where both armies face to face. So there have been trouble in earlier Ramsang and then Galwan Valley and various areas which is bordering Ladakh and Eastern Ladakh and all that, and which has resulted in hand-to-hand kind of physical clashes where we have lost about 20 people or force personnel in an army, where a colonel from Nalgonda, one of our Telugu brave soldier, also lost his life, and estimated about 43 to 60 people Chinese side were killed. What I'm trying to say is the annexation of Tibet there by China, then they have opened up that we should create trouble inside the country. So they started encircling India by befriending either Pakistan or even Nepal, all neighboring countries, even Sri Lanka, or even Mauritius, expanding these bases and all that, or even Indian Ocean, which we've been able to, present government able to effectively neutralize because we got into the Quad. So the external hostile countries around us, and with an intention to fight, not the direct war, what we call proxy wars. What the Pakistan says is, after it's been dismembered, been knocked out very badly in two wars it has waged with India, and formation of Bangladesh, dismembering Pakistan, East Pakistan. So they said they will never be able to take on India as a nation, Indian forces. So they said, we will bleed India, by 1,000 cuts. And they have specially formed an ISI in a particular intelligence group. Their mission is to foment trouble, raise militant outfits the Pakistan occupied, administered Kashmir, and inside that, and send across those militant groups. Some of them have been, Lashkar Toiba, which you must have seen in newspapers and all that. Lashkar Toiba, Hizbul Mujahideen. There are 6 militant groups which they have, formed and trained and send them across, and keep on taking Kashmiri youth across the border, and keep on fomenting trouble, keep on raising the issue at the international level. It goes on. So greatest achievement, what government of India, the present government did is knocking out 370. When we were 2010, I had a personal hands-on experience of Kashmir, heading the CRPF, where lakhs of people used to be across the streets, across the valley, entire Srinagar Valley, against government of India. CRPF, army, we are the ones face of government of India there. It's against government of India, agitations, attacks, and all that. in just about 4 months, we had to shoot down 117, I wouldn't call agitations, mostly it is extremist elements, terrorist elements. And some of them may have been just agitations also. And about 3,000 people of our CRPF and J&K police personnel have been injured in this 4 months. They have created a situation, terrorist outfits in Kashmir Valley, promising them in 3 months, we're going to get the freedom. 3 months will be liberated out of India. Just have patience, wait for 3 months. And almost 4 months, we clamped a curfew and immobilized people coming onto the streets after this session. Then we went around, chapered around entire valley with the local district administration and local people, local traders, everybody telling them, no matter what happens, even if it is 400 years or even 4,000 years, even not losing about 117 people, even if you have 4,000 or 400,000 people lose in this Kashmir, we will not allow Kashmir to cede from India. This clarity, personally, we gave to the local population in the valley everywhere, telling them we are together as a nation. If there is sporadic violence that takes place because of agitations or terrorist activities, the India can take, and we will never ever allow hostile nations, either Pakistan or China, to fight us in Jammu. If there has to be a fighting war, it has to be there in Kashmir border. It is not, we will never allow. This we went across and made it very, very clear across the valley, talking to 3-4 districts we used to chop up every day. There's a small place valley, it's not a bigger thing. And DGP, the local army commander, corps commander we used to have, and local IG, commissioner, we all used to go as a group, couple of helicopters, hold local meetings and send the message across that India is India. And no matter who does what, this will be, Kashmir will be part of India. So this direct delivering message. Now what has happened, this 370, used to be always a problem. And with Union territory, J&K becoming Union territory, 370 being not about 35 section. Now I get reports from field. We have a lot of people who have been there in the ground report. Massive encounters are going on. And nobody talks of this nonsense of Hindustan se aaya kya. I remember first time going to Kashmir in 1977 as a national science talent scholar. We went to Kashmir University. We were placed in Dal Lake, and we had people across the country from there. And this was right there in Srinagar. Even there, when we used to go to people, marketing and all, they used to talk of Hindustan se aaya kya, Hindustan se aaya kya. This thing is a theme which used to continue, forever kind of a thing. An entire population of that valley was against the government of India. They live on us, millions and millions of rupees are brought in and put there, dumped into that valley. They eat our money, they take aid from us. Their students come all over the country, everywhere they study everywhere. They take government of India benefits, but they are not with India. So the intelligence, foreign funding is take place from that side, ISI, our own agencies from here, and from Gulf countries. It looks very rich. Until I went and lived there and commanded the operation, we did not know the Srinagar, Kashmir Valley by itself is very, very rich compared to most places across the country. And the other factor I learned there was, the Kashmiri students in the university, when I used to go and talk to them, they told me that they are #1 in the country in corruption. I know it's one of the corrupt societies, but they corrected me. They said, no, not one of the sir, we are #1 corruption in the country, they said. Why I'm giving you the situation is, there, the setup is in Kashmir, you all must be aware that you have what you call CRPF to handle the internal security. About 70 battalions are deployed both in the valley and Srinagar exclusively held with the CRPF. The J&K police that lead this thing. And we have 2 major generals sitting, they're Kilo and Victor. They handle Rossi rifles. So exclusively for CA, Counter Insurgency Operations in the valley. Along with the CRPF, they be operating along with the J&K Special Operations Group. And they were Northern Command, when Commander is sitting there, and we have coordination meetings, taking to the top brass and reviewing the situation. Similar mechanism exists in the northeastern states also. Similarly, Naxalites affected states also. So the state machinery, state security office is totally seized of whatever kind of situation that they are facing. But, I've just briefly handled the Kashmir part of it. If you come down to Naxalite, 13 afflicted states earlier, now it's been brought down. Most sensitive areas, Basra area, some of these districts we have, Jagdalpur, Narayanpur, Sukma, that Dantewada. There are 5-6 places there. And the deployments also, we have more than 20 battalions deployed directly there, CRPF, along with the local police forces, along with the local, armed outfits of the local Chhattisgarh government. Plus, we have something called specially trained to fight Cobra, combat battalions for resolute action. You must be seeing those camouflage uniforms sometimes here and there. So they're deployed in that area. Similarly, in Jharkhand, certain area, 5 districts in Bihar, some districts here, border districts in Andhra Pradesh and Chhattisgarh, we have some of the areas and all that. So the security apparatus is there, but when we to chopper around, what they call Ambu's Mart, there's a liberated zone in the country is at thousands of square kilometers in Bastar, which is at the best by itself is larger than Kerala. When first we went as young officers way back in 79, they said this is the district is larger than the Kerala state by area. Now they made 5 districts and all that. You can fly for hours together. You would not see anything. Just, we say Dandakar, this forest, thickest forest what we have there. There is no space either for politics or the development. That's wherever the Naxalites have survived. I think my younger brother has seen Andhra while growing in his career. Where the development is there, the twin objectives, the government of India came up with sometime around 2004 and later, after this NCC and PW, they came together, they started causing a lot of violence across the nation. Integrated action plan with the twin objectives that we bring about focus districts, which are affected greatly because of frustrated, aspirations of people are not met, poverty and corruption by the government agencies and harassment of government agencies and all that. Specialized incentives, special packages were given economic development to the areas. And also to fund heavily to specialized forces to counter these Naxal operations. In fact, CRPF in Bastar, we have raised 2 Bastaria battalions. The boys and girls from the most interior areas, exclusively from those 5 districts, we have raised young boys and girls and formed 2 battalions and deployed them with entire force for operations and all that. So countermeasures are being, from Government of India, state governments are being handled. Only when cooperation, doesn't come forward, sometimes we have Government of India, a particular ruling party, and state governments, a particular ruling party. This we see even the Northeast also. So these kind of gaps do come in, and then violence on and off. You must have heard about 2010 in near Chintalar, Sukma district, 76 CRPF people were wiped out, and 8 Naxalites were wiped out, and about, I think, about 200 people were injured. Similarly, again, I was there by the CRPF at that time. Then 2013, I think, 27 of Congress leadership was there. UPA government was there. And every day, 3 days we had to go with PM and Sonia Gandhi, myself. I was officiating DG CRPF at that time. So we had rushed to that area every day to see what was happening around. Karmakar was a former minister who was supposedly responsible for raising a counter-Naxal outfit of people, Salvadudam, which has been banned by the Supreme Court subsequently, and then it is banned. But at that point of time, something like even in Andhra Pradesh also, even some other states, they brought out local, to counter the violence by these extremist outfits. So Karmakar, he was killed, and then one Patel, he was the chief of Congress of that Chhattisgarh, and then the very famous Jashan Chukla, I think chief minister, his brother, elder brother, he was also. So about 27 people were killed. A convoy of Congress leadership was going in. So top leadership of Chhattisgarh was just removed. In a couple of hours, we were about 800, 600 female Naxalites and plus another 200-300 people. About 1,000 people came from Orissa and this border. They call some Darba Valley or something like about 50 kilometers from Jagdalpur. So I'm just giving you sporadic incidents. Just because they caused an incident, that time I was in DG, moved down, and I was in Delhi. The local media was piling on. Oh, it has done greatest thing violence, whether we had in command, not in command and all.
Sir, just wanted to inform you that Muralidhar is in the room. So whenever you want to allow him to talk, I leave it to you. I leave it to you.
I'll give it because this is something that hands-on experience what we have faced in our country where we lived. I'm only talking about handling insurgency and terrorism, how our country is totally prepared, despite we have certain limitations as a nation. That's a difference. So this, what I'm talking about, then I said, when we fight a war, it's a daily war. With a war you fight, even externally, we don't fight wars no longer. It's just that skirmishes we have. after that, whatever Chinese war and two Indo-Pak wars, direct confrontation is not possible. But they have wherewithal, try to destabilize the nation as a country. They want to dismember the country. Now, secessionist forces either in the Northeast or in Kashmir. Whereas Naxalism is an inborn kind of a thing, though it has a pan-leftist extremist to various countries around the world, the movement. But basically, they want to again vote for the government and they want to bring down whatever to battle of and all that. But our point is, these are the major internal security challenges which challenge the governance. Either it is Kashmir, or it is the Northeast, or it is in the afflicted areas of rest of the areas. They say at one point of time, 40%, even the Prime Minister, the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh has commented, biggest national security challenge is Naxalism or left-wing extremism. Where 40% of geographical area, red card, what they got from Nepal down to Tamil Nadu, certain areas, it is in their command. Now it's been gradually, it's been brought down and all that. So I've given you briefly what is happening in these areas. Now other speakers can take over. What is most important is how it is not just preparing our police forces or that is very important. Like Andhra has effectively handled by raising their special forces here, Greyhounds. I think Mr. Vass at the time, he has raised that, and then it's become a model, role model across the country to raise special forces to counter this kind of extremist, armed kind of a thing when they want to cause any disturbance and all that. So this is one side of the story. But then you have, as development is progressing, like we were just talking about, my younger brother was mentioning about 124, sedition law, 124A. Now somebody very, very senior in the judicial, or maybe the present sitting Chief Justice says, Tilak and Gandhi have been arrested under this when they're fighting for freedom. Okay, agreed. Tilak and Gandhi. 200% I agree with the experts who have given it. Where the governance is there, where civilization is there, where the law of the land is upheld, you don't require 124A. Right? And it should not be applied there also. Not again as a normal kind of thing. If there is a secessionist forces operating either in Kashmir terrorists or in Northeast or Naxal areas, who want to go through the government of India or government, state government, then what will you use if you don't use 124A? It may have happened, the way things are in the country, specifically used against somebody, politically motivated. That can be set aside. Or there can be guidelines. You simply can't say that sedition law was meant only to put down freedom movement. Yes, it was meant to put down the freedom movement. They applied it on Gandhi, they applied it on Tilak, or whoever it is, whichever British's way. But what about those forces, physical forces across the country who are operating? How do you handle them? The moment you arrest anybody, you just get a bailout. As you can buy a bailout. Now, at least this place, this kind of, especially those who have experience in handling terrorism and insurgency will never say that you should go. Last part of my career, I came into National Human Rights Commission. After handling critical infrastructure, brother was talking about CSF, we ensured across the country, there is no, after Kandahar hijack, there is no hijack in the country by bringing in, industrial security force across the nation, all the airport security. Aviation security made a unilateral one force, and there's not been a problem at all. In CRPF, counter-terrorism, counter-insurgency, counter-nationalism, we've been having a greater hold in the country. There is no problem at all. So what is important for each one of us is, when the debate takes place, it's easy, I was told at some point of time, 60 to 70% electronic media and the media or with the Naxalites. It was, here, the height of Naxalism and all that. Now, I graduated again instantly from JNU. We had a lot of people, those years, leftist, Marxist thinkers and all. We were also trying to understand what is Marxism. And as a youngster, you feel really attracted towards when somebody says, why should it be limited to only rich bourgeoisie or poor and all, means of holding of control of whatever production and all that. It should be the proletariat. It's a very, very logical, and for a young mind, it appeals. But what has happened either in the West Bengal or in Kerala or in Tripura, when these people have ruled, there's nothing different as such in reference to any other state which has been governed. So, with these few remarks, now I will call upon. Now I'm told Mr. Muralidhar of JFC is here, and he can take over. And finally, we can, maybe our younger brother has spoken, and the other speakers, whoever would like to can, talk, and then we will take on what should be the further this thing. My simple 3 principles is: first, we must effectively handle our external part of the all around India, that our effective foreign policy, neutralizing, beyond the borders, handling the countries all around, which gives us peace inside the country, because they cannot foment trouble inside the country. And build the focus on developmental initiatives, whichever, like for example, Northeast, let's talk about, when we were born in the Carter, out of my 38 years, I was there for 14 years, 3 different spells in Tripura. There's something called, for Northeast, when I sit in Delhi, I only went for last 7.5 years to Delhi, last part of the career. So you look at from Delhi to Northeast, they say there's a geographical distance, there's emotional distance. There's a disconnect from the Northeast to the national capital. That will be the feeling of at that point of time. Now there is, I think, special initiatives are being taken in by Northeast Development Separate Ministry to inform. Now I think Mr. Krishna Reddy has been also given Northeast the ministry and all that. And I have interacted with some of our people. I mean, when younger days, SP and DIG and all, one word was used, Christian engineered, conversions, and then virtually the entire Northeast has become, not only most places, English speaking, but the lifestyles have become, except Tripura, we had about 70% still, because of Bengali influx or whatever they had. Entire tribal population across the Northeast has been converted. Then we are seeing tribal insurgency also. We faced 25 years of insurgency, which were after Punjab and Mizoram, 3rd state in the country, anywhere in the world, where national security apparatus have been put on the violence, totally. Now it's in the path of development, the Tripura state. So there, when we used to see, wherever we go, a single father, whatever, they could sit in a bike and go anywhere inside area, no problem at all. You can go 3 or 5 vehicles in a convoy, you will be ID blasted or you will be attacked, but anything can happen. So entire Northeast, that is. So when our people came, and I was sometimes alone in the circuit also, some 2 states. So they used to interact with us, who's in charge of Northeast, and some of them, instantly Telugu gentlemen were.
Sir, can we maybe we'll take up something more after Muralidhar Rao ji has spoken? Maybe.
Yeah. So that was initiative what to counter missionary practices where they're giving health and school. So our Saraswati Vidyalaya has come, and entire Northeast they have really taken and countered in those areas what I had seen during the state. Now, friends, I will hold it here, and I call upon our esteemed Muralidhar Rao to address, and later we will take on.
Let me welcome Muralidhar Rao Garu for this program. Friends, as you all know, he doesn't need any introduction. He's a senior leader from BJP. He's now in charge of Madhya Pradesh. But then he's more than qualified to talk on this subject, because today, as we speak, he has 18 pellets in his body. He has been attacked by Naxalites, and then he's a survivor of Naxal attack. And so he has faced this as the student leader while he was the ABVP leader. So he has gone through this at a very grassroots level. So his experience and his wisdom, now that he's in BJP, his understanding at the political level is something of great value to all of us. It will be great to hear Muraliji. Muraliji?
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay, thank you. Girdharji, thank you. I have listened to speakers like esteemed speakers like Subramanyam ji and Krishna Reddy ji, and I'm happy to be present in this today's discussion organized by Pragna Bharati. So internal security challenges, a lot of issues have been discussed already. I would like to, because there has been some communication gap. So for me, there is some time constraint, but definitely I would like to, raise few important things before the today's audience. Regarding the internal security challenges, the important issue which I would like to raise, which has already been discussed. We have always been trained and also habituated to discuss from the beginning after 1948. Whenever we discussed internal challenge, Kashmir used to be the important issue which we used to discuss and which we used to present as a area of concern. Today, two, three things the world has understood. First, before taking up these issues, what I would like to place before all of you is the world around us is also now slowly accepting this India's integrity and India's national unity. Now it is not possible to think in a different way or to suggest anything to alter the present situation. 30 years back, 40 years back, even when I was working in Jammu Kashmir, America or other countries used to present that, okay, why don't we accept the separation of Kashmir Valley while retaining Jammu region and keeping the Ladakh with India, and why we cannot have a different structure of management and administration for the Kashmir Valley. Today, such things are not possible for the world leaders even to raise and to come with that. So what I would like to say here is, world is slowly realizing that India has grown and Indian economy has grown and Indian polity has gained strength and Indian military also has gained acceptability and a respect all over the world. So with the situation, the challenge of Kashmir, and with the particularly after abrogation of Article 370 and removal of 35A, of course, we will continue to have a challenge in a different form, but the structure and the nature of the challenge has changed. So this I would like to say. So now Pakistan, as our Subramanyam ji and Krishna Reddy have told, after 1971 war, they realized we cannot fight a direct war. So they realized, understanding the capacity of their own military strength, they started that 1,000 cuts war, bleeding India by having 1,000 cuts and waging proxy wars. Today, that also they have slowly realized that it is not going to yield that kind of result which they wanted. So now what I would like to say is the nature and the intensity and the game of the challenge is changing, and India has to prepare for the new form of challenge in that area. This is a very important thing. So the challenge has changed. I don't say we will not have the challenge in Kashmir. We will definitely have that challenge, but that will be in a different form. So this we have to, the same kind of extremism, the same kind of terrorism, and the same kind of wars which we used to have from different organizations trained by ISI in the same way, we may not have. We may have a different technology-driven kind of things. So we have to prepare for that. But definitely we will continue to have a challenge on that front as long as Islamic radicalization as a source is there outside the country. The source of the Islamic radicalization is not only a challenge for the Kashmir problem, but we will have different problems on account of that. So I would say it is an exogenous game. This source of Islamic radicalization is not inside India, but it is outside India. So as long as that source is not dismantled, as long as the source is not demolished and the structures are completely thrown away, it is not possible to have, a kind of peaceful situation, whether it is in Kashmir or elsewhere. So what I want to say here is we will have a different challenge in Kashmir, and we will continue to have. That is a challenge definitely we will have to face for the next quarter century. Next important issue I would like to say is, before Modi ji's government came in, we were discussing about Naxalism as a problem spreading over from Nepal border to Sri Lanka, 160 districts and complete red corridor. Here, sometimes thick red to sometimes pale red. But we used to always discuss and about this problem, Naxalite corridor, ultra Naxalites, ultra communist forces, and sometimes combining and sometimes separating and waging guerrilla war. And it was not a war against political parties, but it was always a war against a state. So today, definitely we have that problem in Bastar area. We have that problem in 8 or 10 or 15. 80% of the Naxalite incidents are now occurring in 8 to 10 districts. Previously it was 160 districts. Now, even according to the security studies, this is now confined or restricted to 50 districts. And within these 50 districts, now we have these problems. 80% of those problems or incidents are happening in 5 to 10 districts. So the zone of Naxal concern has come down, but definitely it is even today a problem. Maybe for the next 5 years or 10 years, if we continue to have this kind of a command structure and central government driven and intelligence shared and cooperating state governments functioning, and definitely this problem can be combated. Now, this level of confidence has grown all over the country, though the security experts are talking about this as a concern, but it is not a pessimistic outlook. Now, the India has become optimistic on the Naxalite front, combating the Naxalite front. This is a second issue, challenge we have, but the challenge area is coming down. Third important area, Northeast region. The security of the Northeast region, for various reasons, maybe beginning of during the Atalji's government, starting the Northeastern Ministry separate, and now Modi ji's government taking active steps, creating infrastructure all over the Northeast area. And, many operations are going on because of that, definitely. And our ability to influence the border countries, neighboring countries, maybe Bangladesh, maybe Myanmar and other countries, because of that, the ability of the state and the ability of the union to create a better law and order situation is now established in the Northeast. Now, Bodoland agreement settlement and, the people, the forces which were fighting violent battles, now they have come into the mainstream. And other tribals also, now they started joining the mainstream. Our concern has come down, but I don't discount the problem. I will not say it has come to, it has become a non-entity. Definitely, anytime anything can get escalated. So this is another area we will have, and we do have Northeastern issues as a challenge. But definitely the 1960s to 2000 situation is not there, particularly in 21st century. India is different, and it is not going to accept any kind of nuisance in the Northeast or Kashmir or in the interland. This has formally established. So our land order problems and the terrorism problems have come down even, So the nationalist government and consensus on the national issues have, made this possible. Diluted the erstwhile challenges. Now, what are the challenges which are emerging? Ultimately, these problems are there. but these problems can come down and it can be brought down or can also be escalated if the situation which is there to handle is not there. So what are those things? Ultimately, now the technology is a very important thing. Now 124A or sedition law and other things have been sufficiently elaboratedly discussed. I don't see Supreme Court or central government are on the different page. There may be some kind of divergent views expressed. There may be Supreme Court also may talk about how it is being misused. I don't think any Supreme Court or any institution can say now there is no utility or no purpose to have a sedition law. The people who are fighting against or waging war against state and weakening the institutions of importance. I don't think anybody is going to talk against them. Definitely, even before Supreme Court, central government has placed its view that it can issue guidelines and it can talk about after Kedarnath judgment and other things. It can come out with guidelines for the enforcement of the sedition law or a better sedition law. Those things may come, but I don't see. Definitely, I do agree that a law which has been there, which has been used against Mahatma Gandhi or against Tilak, should be continued to be in the operation. Nobody, any sentimental person can. But at the same time, it does not mean that there should not be a law to fight out against such kind of forces who are interested in waging war against the state or against the country or sabotaging the Indian interest. Those should not be curbed. No institution can argue. So in my view, Supreme Court, in its wisdom, has to come out with the proper guidelines for the proper implementation. So this I would like to say. Now, the important thing I would like to bring here is the social media platforms. Social media platforms owned not by Indians is also emerging as a source of problem. I'm not in a position to now elaborate because of the time constraint, but definitely it is a very important thing and it is also creating a lot of problems, not only in terms of democratic discourse, but sometimes there is a kind of alignment happening in this country, unfortunately, and that is emerging as an internal security challenge. Democratic forces, normally, the functioning in the country are seen as they are competitors in the democratic framework with various parties. And normally there will be a consensus about the national unity and about the national interest. But what is happening practically is their inability to fight and compete in a successful way, and after losing steam, they feel by aligning with the anti-social and anti-national sometimes forces, whether it is in Kashmir, whether it is in Naxalite forces, whether it is evangelical forces, whether it is the radical Islamic forces, sometimes the political parties which should not have been, but are sometimes aligning their arguments with such forces and giving credibility and trying to give credence to their arguments. That is again, an important challenge which we are going to face. I wanted to be brief because of the time constraint. What I would like to say is, in coming days, definitely as a nation, our stature is growing at the global level. Our economy is also gaining strength at the global level. And our Indian talents are also gaining credibility and gaining strength, not only at the Indian marketplace, but even at the global level. And, Indian polity, maybe because of the inherent strength, democratic strength and all, this is the biggest country, 135 crore country, and with its, proper ability to maintain democratic elections and ability to maintain the kind of, administration which we are demonstrating. These kind of things, ultimately, we are able to play our role at the global level in a more effective way. And with the nationalist government is in the center, its ability to play this role is becoming more effective. So with this, ultimately our challenges, ultimately our internal security challenges are not emanating internally, they are emanating from outside. Their source is at outside. So tomorrow, what I would like to say is the greatest challenge in India in coming years is, this radical Islamic movement and its influence in India. Sometimes, the areas may be different. One area is Kashmir, another area is Hyderabad, or another area is Assam. Areas may be different. Unless internally we address that issue, we have, unfortunately, the problem is, as Krishna Reddy said, 90% of Muslims are law-abiding people. I agree. But, the society is sometimes functioning as cushion for the radical forces. And the leadership among these groups is also becoming vocal agencies for such forces. So, and money sometimes coming from outside, logistic support coming from sometimes from outside, or diplomatic support sometimes coming from outside. All these things are making really a problem. In coming days, for example, in Hyderabad, OIC is there. He has never apologized for Qasim Razvi and his atrocities. He has never apologized for Aurangzeb. He never said that we will criticize these things and we will not stand by. Indian Muslims have nothing to do with Aurangzeb. Indian Muslims have nothing to do with Muhammad Ghazni. Indian Muslims have nothing to do with Muhammad Ghori. Unless this becomes very clear and doctrinal, in coming days, definitely we have a challenge, and Indian society and has to manage it and has to handle this problem and has to navigate in coming years this problem. But I am fully confident we will be able to do it, and we will be able to demonstrate our maturity while handling the radical Islamic problem. We will address this problem, in a matured civilizational way. So, I'm very happy, Girdharji. So I have explained a few things within the time which I have got. There has been a communication gap. Though I have joined, it has not been properly displayed. Thank you, Girdharji.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, we did not see you actually. Your video was also not on, so we were looking for you. That was where the confusion was. Before I let you go, can I ask you one question, sir?
Please.
In Kerala, we have SDPI, which is mostly homegrown. It is not something which is funded or motivated from outside. They might be getting funds from Gulf expats, but then it's largely Kerala driven and internally homegrown kind of an issue. I mean, the general question that people are asking is, why is the BJP government at center not taking action against them or banning them? So this is something which we thought we'll park it with you.
This why exactly a particular organization is not banned, this definitely only the Home Minister or Home Ministry can answer, because it involves a lot of technical things. But what I would like to say as a politician, as a person who is working for the BJP, both at the national level and also have traveled to Kerala, SDPI, when I broadly said the Islamic radicalization problem is exogenous. Internal, when exogenous, the external factors are working and sources are working, they create a kind of encouraging atmosphere, sometimes internally also. And when parties like Congress and the Communists, they align with such forces, it becomes, troublesome. Even Naxalites also, their growth happened because of this alignment of Congress and Communists with them intermittently. So what I would like to say is, but broadly, if you see, when Article 370 removed, people, even today, Congress is not in a position to ask for its removal. I mean, its restoration today. When Digvijay Singh tweeted, there was no, leader from Congress to support it. So what I want to say is, slowly in India, that awareness is growing, and radicalization of Islam is not acceptable for India as a country. This is becoming a accepted reality. That is the most important thing. There is no misinformation. There is no confusion among the people. Definitely in coming days, these activities of SDPI have to be codified and documented, and definitely a legal action has to be taken, and there should not be any kind of wavering from the state or central government, and public movements have to be created, and BJP is definitely one among them, to create a public movement against the activities of SDPI. You and me, we do not have a different opinion on SDPI.
Thank you, sir. Before I let you go, maybe Krishna Reddy garu at Subramanyam ji wants to say something to you.
Namaskaram. Namaskaram, Muralidhar garu.
Namaskaram, Andy.
It's all a pleasure to listen to you. I always admire your articulation, and every word is measured and put there. I wish we had more time with you, but you brought out issues exceedingly well. And as you rightly said, these emerging challenges, including sedition law, we will find an answer to it. And certainly the views expressed by few individuals can be the starting point, but there is a way in which we balance all these views as the country moves forward. I totally agree with you that the international perception of our national developments has undergone a sea change. People are not willing to read New York Times and come to conclusions. They are waiting for statement coming from our Ministry of External Affairs. This is a phenomenal gain which we are only seeing in the last couple of years. It gives me great satisfaction. Thank you so much for bringing out these issues. We wish we had more time with you. The Pragna Bharati would certainly look forward to having that interaction with you. Thank you, Muralidhar.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Muralidhar garu. Thank you so much.
Right.
So I think we'll continue with our question answer session. Maybe some of the questions have been asked. I would request Krishna Reddy garu and Subramanyam garu to answer it. I mean, the format that we are now following is we are not, letting people ask the questions. What happens is generally there will be a lot of discussion going on instead of just pointed questions. So that is the reason why we have changed it. We have looked at a different format now. I have requested all of them to direct their questions to me so that I could consolidate and ask you. One of the questions that have been asked is, how about the illegal immigration, immigrants problem, right? With regard to Bangladeshi immigrants or now the recent phenomena of Rohingyas. I mean, there must be a huge internal infrastructure which is supporting them, right from the Bangladesh border to Jammu or Bangladesh border to Kerala. If these people are able to travel, they must be funded, they must be logistically taken across. So this infrastructure doesn't seem to be in our radar. So if Krishna Reddy garu can elaborate on this, how do you think, what is the nature of this problem, and can we do something? What more should the government do to handle this?
See, for the Northeast, I can comment, as I've already mentioned, about 15 to 18 million, Bangladeshis that, who migrated into Tripura mainly. About 70% of the population are from East Pakistan prior to 71 and later after 71, the 71 war. Then you have West Bengal, entire border, and similarly in Assam. So demographic composition actually, which used to be initially tribal land of Tripura, has been taken over by this, which has affected insurgency for about 25 years there. Now the border, as we understand normally, unless you have worked and lived and seen the border, otherwise we think border is very watertight. If you go across to any other borders, unless it's been very, very like in Pakistan border in certain areas, even where we have challenges. Initially, when we went and saw 40 years back, and subsequently fencing and all, tightening the border, it will become a little more difficult for them to cross over. But otherwise, border is very porous. About 7 to 8 kilometers, we have a company of border security force. We have border guarding forces. We have BSF, we have SSB, we have Indo-Tibetan Border Police. There are different border guarding forces. And in Kashmir per se, the line of actual control, we have army deployed there because of level of violence to handle. So the migration of illegal migration has taken place initially, yes. But now it's fairly strictly under control. Once the migration has taken place, politics have taken over. Depending on the religion of this, Bangladeshis who are coming, these borders, they have become local, and a political kind of this thing. That is why there's so much of opposition when the amendment was made for citizenship, this thing. You must have seen the agitation across. So anything you do airtight, first of all, until this Aadhaar card and all, earlier, it's a free for all, everything. People could just move on. Anybody could cross over. So we didn't have the strict border security mechanism. Only when you're fighting insurgency and terrorism, we were having some controls. Otherwise, if you see in even Agartala, they say when we enter the young officers, 70% of the rickshaw pullers are from Bangladesh. They come, pull rickshaw morning to evening, and they go the side. And a lot of marriages take place this side and that side because of heavy Bengali population which has migrated from Bangladesh. Now, to have a stricter mechanism to ensure that there is no illegal migration, it calls for a tremendous amount of resources. It's not easy to just say that hand to hand we have forces deployed and nobody can cross over. So for that, the present amendment which has been brought out by the present government, it will go a very long way. Now therein, where people have been displaced, especially the neighboring countries, they have been given a citizenship. So then the problem again came, something which is for a political reason, which is not visible at all. They have highlighted and started agitation across the streets. So do you want to say something?
Yeah. So, LVSG, can you, from where Krishna Reddy was asked, where he left, he said once they cross over, politics take over. You've seen politicians at very close quarters. You've seen at the highest level of bureaucracy, you've seen all this politics happening. So what is your take on how does these politics play out, which is actually working against the national interests? What has been your experience? Of course, you don't have to name the people, but then how does these dynamics work at the political level? Of course, Krishna Reddy garu spoke at police level, but now at the political level, if you could help us understand.
I of course, I share the views which my elder brother has mentioned about the kind of complexities the migrants bring in. The problem is, we are ultimately, end of the day, all of us are talking about democracy. Now, democracy, it only talks about electoral lists and the number of votes polled. Now, nobody cares to see how the names have got into the electoral lists. It must be common experience to most of you, the participants in today's program. Now, none of us even bother when the state government or the district electoral officer announces that electoral list registration program is going on. Please come and raise objections or please add your names. You will be surprised, they won't even get 0.005 response to this notices. So whatever names are brought in by individuals with political interest, they get automatically added to the electoral lists. And where they perceive that a group of fellows are going to be politically neutral are politically insensitive to politicking, those names will get deleted. You'll be quite surprised. I was once the election observer in the year 2000 to New Delhi constituency. That is the constituency number 1. It's called number 1. There were civil servants who came to the electoral booths and complained that their names are all removed. So it does happen across the country. And today the political pundits, and you have got specialists also whose services can be hired, who I'm told would advise on what are the steps to be taken before the conduct of polls, what are the steps to be taken on the day the polls are conducted, what are the steps to be taken after polls are conducted, because that's important for the next polls. So you have a package program today. So he doesn't only deal with elections. He deals with what you should do as somebody running for elections, how to turn the electorate in your favor. And if you are the ruling party, what you need to do to interfere with this electoral lists making. You have got specialists on this. You have got consultants on this who are being paid good amount and who are coming into this. Now, unless our electoral law violations are taken care of very strictly, in a period of 5 years, the electoral violence, electoral offenses committed by contesting candidates will never be brought to book. So 5 years is there. Only if, unfortunately, this fellow gets re-elected next time, this sin on the first election, what he has done, is catching up with him. So I strongly feel that we have to deal with politicians separately. We have to deal with political parties separately. The country is not prepared because we have a perception that somebody is a good political party, somebody is a bad political party. Political party is a political party. Their root stock is the same. Fortunately for us, there are some political parties which are professing a value system and which practice to a very large extent the value system that they profess. But there are political parties which are adept in violating. I went as election observer to West Bengal. For 2 elections I was there. I must tell you, with great admiration, I used to see the way those guys are prepared. They know every circular issued by the Election Commission of India. They have got each of the party representatives. They used to come with thick files like this, Giridhar. So when an election observer calls for a meeting of party representatives, these guys used to come with a thick file like this. Now, does it mean that they have got complete faith in the election machinery? I doubt very much. But as a cosmetic outward behavior, they would point out every bit of the law in the most perfect manner. But when it comes to violating that law, they would violate it in an extraordinary kind of a cleverness which can never be caught. So the bunch of politicians we have in this country, there is no way in which we can bring them to good behavior. As a result, people who are really playing by the rule book are also dealt the same way. So we don't make any distinction. Political parties which are declaring their assets, we don't deal with them separately. Political parties which don't reveal their assets, we don't deal with them separately. The representatives of political parties who have not declared the criminal record, we don't deal with them separately. So this obfuscation of this entire electoral system, I think is something which is of a very, very large dimension. That's the reason why. And we found another unfortunate incident. I'll just close with this. A person who works as a chief electoral officer in a state government, he is in for major, major trouble if he was strict in the elections and a particular political party, which was at the receiving end, if they were to win the elections and come to office, the first guy who will be harassed to his death is this electoral officer. So, we are getting into so many issues of governance and which I'm afraid these issues are not really getting the best attention. Same thing I'm sure Anna will agree, the police officers who are at the helms of affairs. So they have to not only deal with the CRPC and IPC code on one side, they have to also have their ears to the ground to be sensitive as to which party is going to come into office. So if they perceive that one party is going to win the elections, then the offenses committed by the candidates of that political party, they have to be having a very, very ambivalent kind of an attitude towards a political party. But the bottom line is, political crime is happening. A party committing crime coming into office, political party willy-nilly agreeing to expatriates getting enlisted in the electoral rolls is coming into office. These are the dangers of democracy, which the nation is today is very busy to look into these issues.
Yes, sir. I think we'll close it in another very short time, maybe 4 or 5 minutes. We'll close it. Sir, Krishna Reddy, if you could throw some light on police reforms. A lot of people talk a lot, but you've been there, seen it, done it. You know what it needs, what is needed for the reforms. Are we really geared up to handle the internal security challenges with the current police manual, police training, and the police policies framework? What are the crucial things that you feel, in your view, that we need to do and do it urgently?
Okay, this is an area, both police reforms and administrative reforms.
I know it's a big subject, but probably if you could just throw a few.
It's simple 3 things I'll tell you. Supreme Court has touched upon way back in '96. I was DIG range in Tripura. So I thought, there's going to be tremendous change in policing across the country. They brought out, there are certain basic issues. Something is simple as appointment of an SHO or a DS, sub-division police officer, or SP of a district, or a law and order IG or ADG or a DG. They should have fixed tenure, and they should be protected from the ambivalence of this. My brother was pointing about this. Somebody who's going to win the election, immediately changes will be there. Local DM, collectors, everybody will be changed the moment party changes color. So the fixed tenure, one of the areas which they said they should bring out, and there has to be a body of, security commission or national level security commission, which the chairman will be the chief minister, the opposition leader will be there, the DG police will be there, a chief secretary will be there, different guys to bring in, immunity to the process of, posting, to start with simple postings, so that they can be fair to every citizen, irrespective of the political parties. The dangers that have been brought out by our brother is something really, really perilous to the nation. Because if the police force is not neutral, it cannot enforce the law, or it has to enforce the law in favor of the either ruling party or rich, then we are in for danger. That is why the dissident movements, where does the Naxalism or any kind of dissidence across the country survive? Where lawlessness permeates. So the simple principle, I will give an example how our political executive can beat. Most of the states, after a decade of going to Supreme Court, again Supreme Court putting some retired Supreme Court justices to monitor police reforms and all that, number of states have come out with their own acts and all that. Now about this posting, they said the DG police and 3 or 4 senior most IPS officers on the cadre, irrespective of the postings, there will be a board, police board, which will decide who should be posted where, and that will be approved by the chief minister. Now, what is exactly happening? Can you beat it? DGP goes, sits with the chief minister, and they brings a list and puts the senior most 4 IPS officers there. Now, let us recommend this. If you don't agree with the DGP, you will spoil your ACR, or you will not go to Government of India if in a small state. They will not allow you to go to Government of India. That chief minister and the DGP. Now, on paper, there is a board which decides who should be DSP somewhere, who should be SP somewhere, who should be DIG somewhere. But actually, what happens? It is the political executive who decides. I just give one example. So the police reforms, what is required is independence from the political executive. For example, let's go to, say, UK, Europe, all of us have traveled across, even places like Singapore and Hong Kong and all that. Nobody can violate the law and get away. You must have seen, even in British there, when I think, who was the Prime Minister at the time, his son got, drunk or something, and 10 Downing Street police station he was taken in. Prime Minister and his wife had to go down and give in writing to the sergeant, the SHO, saying that we shall take care of our ward, please kindly release him. Or any MP who was, even Bush's daughter, when she underage and bought, a bottle of wine, she was arrested there. So by and large, law gets enforced both those places. Here, the law really takes a long, rope beating when somebody is rich, somebody is powerful. This is one of the, worst kind of situation in the country. So unless police reforms are brought about, and by merit, people are chosen who should be the Director General of Police, who should be the SP of the district, who should be the SHO. You will not be able to fight the corruption. You will not be able to fight nepotism. You will not be able to fight the political favoring. Now, it's a very common thing across the country. Each time a particular party is in power, police force becomes the target of the opposition, and they become pawns in the hands of the ruling executive, which my brother can substantiate and see. He has seen sitting across what was happening. Before he was sat, when the elections were being conducted, he was specially picked up by the election commission and party captain, and later also. I'm not criticizing any particular individual chief minister or anybody, but the system has taken a beating. Now, today, if any one of us were to call, after holding the topmost post in the country, maybe a senior IAS officer may respond if you call, but at the Thana level, you give a ring and see whether the inspector will respond to you, you will not. 99% you will not. Unless your MLA or MP ruling that. For opposition, they will not bother again. Or you are their boss. That's how the system is. So, three things they wanted, fixed tenure for this, and state security commission set up, and complaints authority at the state level and district level. If police does some nonsense, they should be brought to book so that in a transparent manner, where people know if SHM misbehaves or SME misbehaves or whoever misconduct, that complaint is being looked into by an independent authority. So on paper, a lot of states have done this, but in reality, I will give an example how our Indian mind is so deviant. We can find ways to beat a thing, whatever you bring it on paper. So we don't know when we are going to bring about these changes. And like, for example, if you're traveling in US or Europe, you can feel as a middle class guy absolutely safe and secure by and large. Nobody will interfere with you. Nobody will do some nonsense. If you want anything, you can get in a few minutes. You just go pay up. I was witness somewhere in Los Angeles. A friend wanted a death certificate. Some family member died 5 years back. We just went, stood in the queue for 10 minutes. We just filled up the details, paid some $25, something, to the certificate came. And try and get a death certificate here across the country here, how much time it takes. I mean, I've told by some people, we have not seen ourselves because it's easy for us, we are in government. So this, unless we bring about a change, first of all, now tell me, if some girl is raped, say Nirpaya, but days together, TV channels, round the clock going on. I was there handling CRPF and Delhi airports at the time. With the case also we handled, apart from the law and order management at Rashtrapati Bhavan and North Block, South Block and all that. Did any channel air till now, what is the ailing police? What is the problem with the police? Why the police doesn't respond to common man or the weak or the, equally? Nobody discusses it. On police reform, has there been any debate on any channel anyway? Very rarely. Sometimes something happens, Supreme Court, somebody will talk something, some discussion within it, we can't. It's something which affects every individual, right? Then a village where we were born, spawned when growing up, we used to famously hear sub-inspector, police fellows, they make money from writers and anti-writers. Both the two parties fight. They make money from both the parties. That has been experienced in a small child growing up in the village, studying in the school and all. We used to hear police coming into some area, means somebody fought, so they take money from both sides. So if this has to change, you are getting the brightest of the bright young IAS, IPS, different services. We have about 27, 28 services. Youngsters are coming into system. But the system which is disparagingly corrupt, by whatever reasons, they are not able to make difference in the system. Individually, yes, there are. Some of them are excellent. I mean, there is no, but by and large, majority of them are good, actually, individually, they're doing. But the moment the political party in power comes, if they violate law, they're not able to take it on. They start this thing. So to neutralize that, it has to be independent machinery, like elsewhere, anywhere. Like, for example, say New York City, or you take any of the police commissioners there, or in Washington and all. President of India can talk to mayor and, New York police, any city commissioner, they come together actually. It's like a mayor is appointed, he chooses who should be the police chief, elected kind of a thing, among by professional police officers. When mayor goes, police commissioner goes. Mayor can talk to police commissioner, that's all. He cannot talk to one fellow below police commissioner, anybody. Even President of India, America, cannot speak to anybody, less than a police commissioner. They stops. They can air their views to the commissioner, and that's it. No sub-inspector, no inspector, no lower officer will ever bother about it. You must have seen a very famous this thing when it's in, I think it happened in Boston. Barack Obama was the president of America. It's a professor, actually, African-American professor in the Harvard University. He had gone out somewhere, he had locked it and gone. He lost his keys. He tried to, from a rear side, enter the house. Some neighbors raised an alarm. Some white police officers came. And the first thing they do, they jump and handcuff. In my own house, I'm trying to enter my place. These guys handcuffed and make a big issue. Then President Barack Obama also said if it is not an African-American, they would not have handcuffed something, then made a statement. Immediately, some young lady officer, the spokeswoman of the Boston Police Department, she said, President, stay off from police. It's none of your business. We will handle here. If there is a misconduct, that will be handled. So next day, President Barack Obama invites a professor along with the white police officers who handcuffed, 3 of them sitting in the White House lawn, 4 of them having a beer, the American president, and then resolve the issue. I'm just saying, where political interference is not tolerated by junior most officers. They have their own ills, but by and large, middle class feels fairly safe. But there are also, like you would have seen so many, aberrations, and like what we have inside the country, social legislations we are not able to enforce. Same thing hasn't happened in America. White or black problem, shootouts, repeatedly it keeps taking place. But we have to bring the system to accountable, where common people, masses feel safe when we go to police station or when we go to any revenue office, any public office, that the government is there to help us, not to create trouble, not to harass and not to fleece us. So this, I don't know how long we have to wait.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It was just wonderful to hear the experiences from both of you. I think for lack of time, I think we need to stop here. I would now request my colleague Chandrasekhar ji to propose a formal vote of thanks, and then we wind up. Friends, as we have changed our pattern, we are going to have a program every weekend, preferably on Saturday. Otherwise, it could be Sunday, depending on the availability of speakers. So please look forward to our next announcement in terms of what the next program is going to be the coming weekend. I now hand it over to Chandrasekhar ji to propose a vote of thanks, and then we wind up.
Thank you, Giriraj. A very good evening to all of you. Thanks for the opportunity given to me for proposing vote of thanks on this wonderful occasion. Usually, for any common man, when we hear of this topic, internal security in our nation, usually what goes through their mind is corruption, extremism, probably cross-border terrorism, and so on. But after listening to today's topic from these wonderful speakers, I'm sure I would say our horizon of knowledge on this topic has definitely improved, increased. It is no exaggeration for me to say that our nation has been witnessing unprecedented onslaught across legislature, executive, judiciary, and the so-called fourth estate media, which they call themselves as. And now, rightly mentioned by our speakers, and especially Sri Muralidhar ji, I think when we think that we found solutions for some of these challenges, they come back in a different form, and we must be ready with alternatives. That's what we all heard and understood. Like there need to be a lot of the changes to be brought, and our government is definitely doing. I think the judiciary, executive, media, demography, economy, commerce, environment, legislature, not surprisingly even in education, because we've been studying a lot of wrong history. So the government is coming forward today to make changes to bring forward the right history. So I think things are on the right path, and I'm sure things will take place, changes will take place, and definitely we'll look forward for better alternatives, and we must be ready for the new challenges which keep coming. So thanks for the knowledge given by all the speakers today. Thanks once again to the speakers and the audience who are here today. Thanks so much.
Namaste. Bharat Mata ki Jai.
Bharat Mata ki